it's an interesting time, and that State of the Union was so much more and more powerful and more directed by God, and such a critical point in our history that I didn't even realize it would be.
Right.
I mean, I thought, yeah, he's going to say everything that I like, and I'll be like, yeah, good. But there was something more to it.
Well, I thought I'd turn it on and maybe watch a little bit.
Yeah.
Another boring speech by an idiot,
Yeah,
but
saying a bunch of
I
stuff
couldn't even shut it off or turn the channel.
Yeah.
I was glued to it.
Yeah, because, I mean, the words, they're just connect. They're
Yep.
so simple.
And even the people that he had invited, it was all
that was
American
perfect.
heroes and
Perfect.
American, just the greatness of what America is all about. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. All right, so the headline news of the Drudge Report says Trump rocks House. We will never be socialist country. Bernie scowls. And CBS poll says that 76% approve of his speech.
Exactly.
That's pretty amazing.
Yeah.
76 is a high.
Yeah, I don't know. Have you guys ever heard of a higher approval rating? I mean, I haven't followed approval
No,
ratings.
especially by someone that's supposedly so despised.
Right.
They want you to believe he's so despised.
Yeah, I mean, when I listened to this speech, I mean, it was so direct, it was sincere, it was accurate, biblically, I believe, for the most part. There was one part of the speech we can talk about in a little bit that I might not totally agree with, but overall, I thought it was
But even the
excellent.
parts that I might not agree with, politics tells you got to do certain things, to appease people as far as compromise. So, a couple of things he said that I kind of disagreed with. I just think that some of those things he has to say if he wants to keep the whole half of our country, engaged.
Sure. Yeah, the part I was thinking of was he was talking about spending a whole bunch of money on AIDS research.
Right.
And I know AIDS does affect some innocent people. I had a friend of mine growing up in high school. His dad got AIDS from a blood transfusion or a
It
blood
definitely
product
does,
because
yeah.
he had hemophilia or something like that. Some kind of a medical condition where he needed a blood product. And so I mean, and it hurts innocent babies. So yeah, it would be nice to try to help those people out. But AIDS generally affects the homosexual community. I mean,
Right.
so I kind of look at that as a possible plague, more so than a disease like cancer. I mean, I guess you could look at.
And again, I would, and maybe
I would rather spend a lot of money on cancer research.
Absolutely.
Right.
That's what I was going to say.
But if he's trying to please, which the left is highly into the homosexual movement and the transgender movement, that's one of those things where I think he says that because that's an indirect way of saying I support, I'm for everybody, even the homosexuals. I want to help you. I want to help,
Right.
everybody, that even if you don't disagree with me, I still want to help you.
Yeah.
Didn't he also say there are no more females now in politics?
Yeah.
Than men.
Not
Right.
not
Or-
then, but than ever before.
More females in the House of Representatives than ever before.
Okay.
But I think he used that. He
I know how he was using it.
It
He
was-
was kind of a
it was more of having fun with them.
Right.
And I mean, if they were conservative women, that'd be one thing. But the
And there
numbers
are some good conservative women.
yeah. But the numbers that went up were generally it was an increase of bad women, of
Right.
Jezebels, as we see
Yeah.
you see Nancy Pelosi in the white there. They were all wearing white and as kind of a protest against.
absolutely. They
Trump.
were protesting at a
Yep.
a
At a
speech.
State of the Union speech,
Yeah,
right?
Right.
So here was one quote. I got a few of them here, but this was probably one of his greatest quotes. There was a couple other ones we'll get to in a little bit that are pretty good as well. But he said there could be no greater contrast to the beautiful image of a mother holding her infant child than the chilling displays of our nation. The chilling displays our nation saw in recent days. Lawmakers in New York cheered with delight upon the passage of legislation that would allow a baby to be ripped from the mother's womb moments from birth. So,
Rush Limbaugh spoke about this today, and he made a great point that whether he did it on purpose or not, I would tend to believe that he did. But he made a point a little before this this quote about how, and this is one of those things we were just talking about, that he says to appease people because it's politics, was that there should be some some money or financing for mothers to stay home with their babies when they give birth. That was right before this, and everybody stood up. All the white people in white, and Nancy Pelosi was clapping. And then as they're clapping, he basically comes in with this, and they all just shut up, sit down, and so they couldn't keep clapping, and it just pointed out the hypocrisy of one minute they're like, oh yes, mothers and their babies, and then oh, we want to kill babies, when they're right out of the womb, and they all sat down, and it just showed the hypocrisy.
But the double standard is this: they can eliminate their child moments before birth, even during birth, and yet if someone kills a woman that's pregnant, he's up for a double murder.
Right.
right.
Tell me that one. How does that work?
Which their argument would be, well, she hasn't chosen to have that baby aborted, so it's a real baby. But if you choose to have the baby aborted, well, now it's the woman's choice.
It's still murder.
Obviously, I'm playing devil's advocate, but
Okay.
she didn't want that baby dead. But yes, it's ridiculous. Abortion is ridiculous, and the fact that there are now
It's
two
such a
states
double-
that are trying to have
Such
it,
a double standard. I mean, you're convicted of
which we could
two
go on and on
murders.
about the abortion stuff. But
Yeah.
Well, I think it was just wonderful that he calls out. I mean, what other president has done something like this? In fact, I think overall Donald Trump's statements on abortion, many people say were the strongest statements ever made by a president in the history of our country. And so he's really exposing them, calling them out for their evil and wickedness. Psalms 94, verse 16 says, "Who will rise up for me against the evildoers? Or who will stand up for me against the workers of iniquity?" And you can say what you want about Donald Trump, but he's standing against. He's making more of a stand than many of our pastors would.
oh, for sure.
Of a lot of our churches that claim to be followers of God. And here we have Donald Trump, who many consider to be kind of having an immoral life's past with women and things
Right.
like that. And
And he says things that are super nice about people, and he's
But the churches need their congregation so they can get the money.
yeah, they don't have they're more concerned about money than standing up for the truth
Right.
But he's standing the gap here. He's exposing them. He says these are living, feeling, beautiful babies who never get the chance to share their love and their dreams with the world. And then we had the case of the governor of Virginia, where he stated that he would execute a baby after birth.
Yeah, he actually said that what we would do is we'd put the baby, after the baby is delivered, we'd make sure the baby's comfortable, and then the mother and the doctor would discuss whether to keep the baby. And if the mother decides, I'm paraphrasing now, but if the mother decides no, then they would murder the baby.
Sick.
If I was fishing, I would call that catch and release.
Yeah, I mean, it's,
I don't want this one. It isn't big enough.
Well, that's nicer. That would be
yeah, that's way nicer.
Well,
that'd be wasting the fish. Taking
Right.
the fish
Catch
in
and
your boat
release would be
cutting
giving them to adoption.
Yeah.
I know, but I mean, it almost reminds me of that. I don't want this fish.
Right.
Well, give me a break.
Yeah.
You can get more trouble for killing a bald eagle egg, embryo inside of a bald eagle egg, than you can for killing a human being inside of a woman's womb.
Oh, it's crazy. It's just, I mean, we're going so far astray from any sense of sanity. He continues on. He says, "Let us work together to build a culture that cherishes innocent life. And let us reaffirm a fundamental truth." Now, I really like this. "All children, born and unborn, are made in the holy image of God."
Amen.
Absolutely.
I mean, you think about that. I mean, whether you think he's sincere or not, he's just, I mean, making a proclamation like this.
You
This
you couldn't say it any better.
yeah.
No. And no other president would have.
No,
No.
or has.
I mean, that just says it all right there. I mean, born or unborn, that just shows the value of human life. It's
Right.
not an animal. It's not, you know.
I think the same thing about how he got elected was divine. Everybody thought it was impossible, especially the people on the left, and then he won. I think it's the same thing. I'm being 100% totally honest. I think he is being led in a divine way, whether he knows it or not. I think God is using him. That State of the Union was so amazing in how it was uniting, and yet how it was so honest, and yet to the point where the people on the left didn't even know how to react.
Yeah,
One minute
right.
they're clapping because they have to, and then they're not clapping, and it was just like, it was so encouraging to me.
I know Donald Trump is pretty wise and pretty skilled, and that's why God uses him. But only God could confound
Yes, that's
the
exactly.
left and the ungodly people.
Right.
Only God could do what's happening before our eyes.
There was definitely some divine intervention in that State of the Union.
I mean, that's why Donald Trump, he's just driving them crazy, because he's always
Yes, he is.
beating them at their own game. And that's what's so beautiful. And, this is the verse right here, or not the verse, the quote right here, where the women all sat down.
Right.
All these women that are supposed to have a motherly instinct,
Yeah, they were clapping minutes before that about the
Right.
mother thing.
and they're sitting down, not clapping, when Donald Trump says, "Let us work together to build a culture that cherishes innocent life."
It was perfect how it worked out.
I mean, how could you not clap for
Yeah.
that and not feel like a wicked, vile person? And how could anybody watching this not look at the Democrats and all these women wearing white to show their
Purity.
whatever? Yeah, and then watching them with their scowling faces at a very pure statement such as this.
Yeah, we're not even talking about abortion here. We're talking about killing a baby when it's a viable third trimester, ready to be born or born. I mean,
Right.
Ready to be nurtured.
Yeah.
Donald Trump bringing up that where the lawmakers in New York were cheering
Yeah.
Yeah.
about the abortion bill, and looking at the women in the Congress with the scowling looks on their faces when he makes a statement about protecting the innocent life. It does make me feel that there are some very heavy demonic forces controlling these people.
Absolutely.
I mean,
there's no other
How could that
explanation for
Yeah.
it.
How could somebody sit there without a conscience and think that that's okay or to celebrate that? It has to be demonic. And I've been saying it for a long time, and it was really cool. I actually saw a writer for Fox News, Todd Starnes. He said this. He said, "A few days ago, I caused a bit of uproar when I said on Fox News at night that there was an evil in the Democrat Party. After what I saw on Tuesday night, I absolutely stand by those words. There is something demonic happening within the ranks of the Democrats."
He said that on Fox News, or he's said it on a Twitter.
He wrote this in an article, but he said when he was interviewed, I think on this Fox News at night, he said there was an evil in the Democrat Party.
Wow.
But now he's going farther and saying, using a little bit more of a stronger language by calling it demonic.
Couldn't
Good
agree
for him.
more.
Good for
And
him.
I've been saying that for a while, and I always think, well, people are going to think I'm just way over the top
Yeah.
using these words. But it's like, how else can you explain this?
Well, they're exposing themselves. The masks are off.
The anger, the hatred, the bitterness, not just of Donald Trump, but against men and against the traditional American biblical patriarchy.
Especially Caucasian men.
Right.
Yeah.
Rush Limbaugh even
Caucasian
nailed it.
Christian men.
He said this is nothing more than a hatred of white men because white men built this country. And they feel that the founding of this country, in their eyes, was the original sin.
Yep.
The founding of this country by white men.
Who said that?
That's Rush Limbaugh's take on the mentality of the left.
Okay.
That the founding of America was a horrible thing.
Right.
And to demons it was. I mean, if you think about it, to demons it was. I mean, without America, you would have, you think about it, America was founded as one nation under God. Without us being here, without the Christians being here, with all this power and influence and even military might, the world would be a totally different place. I mean, you'd have, who knows what this would look like. We'd probably be at the point of Revelation chapter 13, where the beast is controlling the world, and Christians are being beheaded. And,
FEMA camps.
yeah. But I think that's really what it comes down to, is the demons know that America, primarily it's the American Christians, and the males represent the strongness of the Christians, the masculine spirit that Satan's afraid of. And they've got to eliminate the masculine Christian men from America, or shove us aside or marginalize us in order for them to recognize their globalist utopia.
Well, who did he go after in the garden? Not Adam.
He went for the woman first.
Exactly.
And then the woman went and convinced the man. And,
Right.
and Adam failed. He was a pacifist, pushover with his wife, and went along with it. And
Right.
that's how many men are today. They're letting all these liberal feminist women run the show, whether it's in their families or in their communities or in government, and they don't do anything about it. And they have the strength and the power to do something about it. I'm not just talking physically, but they should have the courage to stand against this stuff, and they don't.
But then look at how the children are affected by this. Mm-hmm. Their children.
Right. Yeah, that's one thing we're going to have a whole nother discussion on this, but that's one thing that our youth are missing today, are real strong male, masculine role models, Christian role models, in every areas, in schools and sports and you name it.
Yeah, I tell my kids, we talk about politics, and nowadays it's not even politics anymore. It used to be politics, like the Democrats believe, more social programs. The Republicans believe, work hard, earn it. But now it's beyond that. It's the Democrats, whether they say it or not, they're anti-God. Mm-hmm. They're against God. They're the religion of environment, or they're the religion of whatever. You're your own God. And the conservatives, the Republicans, the people on the right are God-fearing, generally speaking. I'm generalizing, obviously. There's good and bad in both, but generally speaking. And like just recently, the House Democrats proposed at the end of January here to get rid of "So Help You God" out of their like when witnesses that are doing oaths in front of the courts or whatever, which is a small minor thing, but not too many years ago, the Democrat platform during their convention, they voted 3 times. Because they had to make sure or something, but it took 3 times for them to vote, and they finally adopted it to take God out of their platform.
And I think I remember, and they cheered about that.
Yeah,
they cheered about taking God out of their platform.
Exactly. So the left and the Democrats, sadly, if you're a Democrat and you're watching this, you either fall under this or you need to change parties. But the Democrats and the left are anti-God party, period.
You can't be a Christian.
No.
And be a Democrat.
Not anymore. Maybe a long time ago you could have.
Yeah.
Not today.
No, it's gone too far left. It's every major policy they stand for is anti-Christian. There's no common ground there. It's gone.
And that's the number one difference between the left and the right, the Democrats and the Republicans, the conservatives and the liberals. It's one party believes there's a God and a creator, and we try to live a life worthy of that, although we fail. And the other side believes there is no God. We are our own gods. The religion of environmentalism or whatever, it's such a black and white difference now. It's so clear now.
Yeah, in Isaiah chapter, just maybe we were thinking about these women that were, just hating men and just the image of them in our House of Representatives, just the rebellious look, the scowling looks and everything. I can't help but think, I think it's Isaiah chapter 6. Let me see. I think I wrote a note down here. Isaiah chapter 3. I'm going to go there real quick. This passage might offend some people, but
Let it be.
let it be. Yeah, there you go. I'm just going to read from the beginning here and just read through some of these really fast. Isaiah chapter 3, verse 1, he says, "For behold, the Lord of hosts, doth take away from Jerusalem and from Judah the stay and the staff, the whole stay of bread, and the whole stay of water." In other words, be like a famine, okay? I think he's more speaking of a spiritual famine here. "The mighty man," now check that out. That was the first one. This would be your masculine man. He's going to take that away from them. And that's really where we're at today, besides Donald Trump. I mean, he's the, he might not have all the godliness about him, but he's definitely a mighty man. He's a warrior. He's courageous.
Absolutely.
He's bold. "The mighty man and the man of war, the judge." Now, notice those are two things, mighty man and man of war. Those are the first two things God said, I'm going to take away from you. So those things should be valued. We should value our mighty men and our men of war. But today, in our society, they say it's toxic masculinity.
Right. Exactly.
"And the prophet," there we go, and he's in there, "and the prudent and the ancient, the captain of 50 and the honorable man." Now, these are all men. "And the counselor and the cunning artificer and the eloquent orator." Basically, God's saying, I'm going to take away all your strong men, all your honorable men, all your wise men, and I will give children to be their princes, and babes shall rule over them.
Wow.
Now, when you look at that House of Representatives, that chamber there, that's what it looks like to us. I mean, it's a bunch of babies in there.
I've never read that scripture before. That's fascinating.
It is. I mean, it's so prophetic. It says, "And the people shall be oppressed, every one by another, and every one by his neighbor. The child shall behave himself proudly against the ancient, and the base against the honorable." Now, you look at that Cortez lady or whatever.
Yeah.
She's a younger lady in there. She's like one of these children looking at Donald Trump as though he's the dad that she hates.
Exactly.
And it's,
That's a great point.
"When a man shall take hold of his brother," and he says, "You be under this land." I'm going to skip on down to verse 9. "The show of their countenance doth witness against them." We just saw that. The countenances of their faces tell us what kind of people they are when they're sitting down with scowling looks on their faces. When Donald Trump says we should have a culture that values life.
Yeah, exactly.
"And they declare their sin as Sodom. They hide it not. Woe unto their soul, for they have rewarded evil unto themselves." I mean, if this isn't what we're seeing right before us, then I don't know what is.
And if that doesn't validate the Bible in it, how pertinent and how true it is, my goodness.
Yeah, and then he says, "Say to the righteous that it shall be well with him, for they shall eat the fruit of their doings." I like that. "Woe unto the wicked, it shall be ill with him, for the reward of his hands shall be given him." So you look at all those people, those wicked people in our House of Representatives, in the Senate. This is reassuring that they are going to get what they've got coming to them. They're not going to get away with this forever. This is the verse that I really wanted to come to. As for my people, children are their oppressors, and women rule over them. O my people, they which lead thee cause thee to err, and destroy the way of thy paths. Now, a lot of people get offended when it says, and women shall rule over them. But that's not the natural way. I mean, right from the beginning, God said that Adam was to be the head of Eve, as Christ is the head of the church. And so the biblical patriarchy is from the beginning. So when you change that, it's unnatural. Just like it's unnatural for, many other things that we could get into. But it's not normal, and you can see, when you see all those women that are there, now there are some good women there. Mm-hmm. And obviously when there's a lack of courageous men, God does sometimes send good, courageous women to stand the gap. But then on the other side, we've got a bunch of Jezebels in there that despise men. They despise the biblical patriarchy. They hate anything. And when they see a white man that's a Christian, to them that is the most vile thing.
Right.
Yeah, I even have some family members, not my family members, but some in-laws. I probably have some of mine too. But they talk about basically how they hate. They're white girls, and they talk about how they hate white men. And it's just sad. It's like, if I said that about women, I hate white women, or if I hate some other race of person, I mean, I would be labeled as a big hater.
Oh, yeah.
But these women can get by with saying I hate white men, and it's accepted. It's not looked upon as something very evil.
No, anybody can get away with saying that nowadays.
Divide and conquer.
If it's white men, Christian men, anybody can say that they're the problem, they're evil, they're wicked, they're the whole issue, and why we have all these problems. It's not true, obviously, but that's why the devil is the great deceiver.
There is such a division, though, that there never was before.
Yeah, no, there's more division than there ever has been, in my opinion, and
So what was interesting here? The man of war, the mighty man, the prophet, all these roles that men are supposed to have in society were taken away as a curse because of disobedience, and they were replaced with children,
women and children.
And these children would not just be, children in general, but this would be your rebellious generation, like the generation. What do they call it? What is that, Cortez? She's from the generation. What do they call her generation?
Millennials?
Millennials, yeah. They call them the millennials. Obviously, there are a lot of good millennials, but yeah. I'm talking about the liberal leftist millennials that believe in socialism, and these people are rising up before our eyes.
That's amazing scripture you pointed out there. I've never read that, and that's exactly what's happening today. I mean, look at just some of the things recently with like the shootings and stuff, and they raised this what was his David Hogg or whatever. Mm-hmm. All of a sudden, he's held up on a pedestal as all-knowing person on gun rights and constitutional issues, and he's just a kid.
He's just a kid.
And he knows nothing. I mean, unfortunately, he was at a situation that was horrible.
But he's arrogant.
He's arrogant and all that stuff. And then women have an amazing role in society. They do. God gave us women, thank God. Women are amazing. But they have a role, just like men have a role. And again, not wanting to upset too many people, but men have the role of leadership, and it's just the way it is. And with the women coming in such a dominating fashion, not only is it taken away their femininity, but it just...
But they give their sons, talking about, being a strong man from before.
Yeah.
They give their sons a choice when they get to be about, what do you really want to be? Do you want to be a girl? Do you want to be... Now there is no gender.
Right.
So, I don't know.
Yeah.
The family has just fallen totally down the hole.
The left is destroying all about everything that has to do with our society and our moral fabric and fiber. Everything from, there's more than one gender now. There's like multiple, I don't know how many hundreds of genders
That's
there
what
are.
I'm talking about.
We can kill babies now at term. Homosexuality is to be held up on a pedestal. Everything the Democrats are driving home right now as a wonderful thing are anti-God, anti-everything that's good about our society.
Right. And we're talking about how these women became leaders here in Isaiah chapter 3. It's interesting. A lot of people don't think about this, but the original sin, actually, they view the white man in their minds. They're not thinking of it in biblical terms, but the liberal leftists, the feminists, they view the founding of this nation by white Christian men as the most evil thing that could have happened on
Right.
in world history.
Right.
But the original sin actually had a lot to do with Eve, the woman, trying to dominate the man.
Be in a leadership role
Yeah, that's how it started.
over men.
She went and he told her that we weren't supposed to. He gave her the rules. She violated the rules and then seduced him to partake with her. So that's. He was passive. He was weak. He should have stood up and said, "That's not. I'm not going to partake with you. I will pray for you." Ask. What Adam should have done is what Moses did for Israel. Moses actually prayed for the Israelites that God would not destroy them. That's what a man should do for his wife when she goes astray from God, is not to follow her like a little wimp boy, a little, I'm trying to think of that name, but whatever the slang terms you want to use, but to pray for her and to be her intercessor when she's falling astray. But that's not what our men do. Our men, for the most part, have become weak. They become godless. They've become,
It's everything Satan wants.
they've become very non-effective in our society. Like God said, they're not. They don't exist anymore.
It's funny how they passed it down to their children too. Mm-hmm. So it's the generation that's coming. They're the same. They're genderless. They don't know what they are even yet.
Right.
So
Yeah, it's getting so bad where it's like there's no gender,
I believe
unless you're a white man.
That's
That's
then
straight.
we're a racist.
Yeah, then you're evil if you want to choose that gender.
Yeah, it's ridiculous because women have strengths that men and we don't have, and we never will have. Thank God. And men have strengths that women don't have and never will have. That's the beauty of His creation.
Right.
And the left and Satan are using that to their advantage. And just like that scripture that I had never heard before, that is clearly what's happening today.
Right. Yeah, a lack of a masculine, godly spirit. If I continued reading here, in verse 16 of Isaiah chapter 3, it says, "Moreover, the Lord saith, because the daughters of Zion are haughty, and walk with stretched forth necks and wanton eyes, walking and mincing as they go, and making a tinkling with their feet. Therefore the Lord will smite thee with a scab, the crown of the head of the daughters of Zion. The Lord will discover their secret parts." And then he goes on and on. But basically God was, the daughters had sinned a great sin. They were very arrogant. They were, walking with a neck straight up. And you look at
It's fascinating.
Zion was the headquarters it was the capital city of the nation of Israel. So if we look at this today, we could translate this today. Look at the daughters of Washington, D.C. They are haughty and walk with...
Yeah, and when they would stand at the speech, and it was embarrassing. If you were looking from an outside perspective, the way they like the one girl would keep looking at the rest of them like she was telling them what to do, like an orchestra or something. And it just was so
then they start like dancing, like they're lifting the walls.
Yeah,
and stuff.
it was embarrassing.
It was so childish, so immature. I'll move on to this other quote here by Donald Trump. He said, in just over 2 years since the election, we have launched an unprecedented economic boom, a boom that has rarely been seen before. There's been nothing like it. We have created 5.3 million new jobs, importantly added 600,000 new manufacturing jobs, something which almost everyone said was impossible to do. But the fact is, we are just getting started. Let me see if he continues on. Yeah, he says, we have unleashed a revolution in American energy. The United States is now the number one producer of oil and natural gas anywhere in the world. And now, for the first time in 65 years, we are a net exporter of energy.
Amazing.
Which, that's a big deal.
Yep.
Huge.
And I can't help but think of Deuteronomy chapter 28, because some would say, what does that have to do with the Bible about a prosperous nation with material goods? They'd say that doesn't seem to fit my socialistic
Right.
version of Christianity, where we're all supposed to be poor and not
Equally miserable.
equally be miserable. In Deuteronomy 28 is a great chapter. It talks about what a nation needs to do in order to become great. So, and that's another thing too. Donald Trump said we have two choices. I got a quote here. I'll pull up later, but I'll just talk about it now. We can choose greatness, or we can choose division and misery and all that. I can't remember the exact words. But some Christians would think, well, that's arrogant. We can't choose greatness. That's not biblical. Well, it is right here. I mean, in Deuteronomy 28, God says, it shall come to pass, if thou wilt hearken diligently unto the voice of the Lord thy God, to observe and to do all his commandments, which I command thee this day, that the Lord thy God will set thee on high above all nations of the earth. And all these blessings shall come on thee and overtake thee, if thou shalt hearken unto the voice of the Lord thy God. And then there's a list of lots of both spiritual and material blessings that he gives. He goes and says your storehouses are going to be full. Your baskets are going to be full. And then he says, in verse 10, he says, all the people of the earth shall see that thou art called by the name of the Lord, and they shall be afraid of thee. And the Lord shall make thee plenteous in goods, in the fruit of thy body, and in the fruit of thy cattle, and the fruit of thy ground, and the fruit, or in the land which the Lord sware unto thy fathers to give thee. He's going to bless all your work. And then he goes on in verse 13 and says, and the Lord shall make thee the head and not the tail, and thou shalt be above, great only, and thou shalt not be beneath, if that thou hearken unto the commandments of the Lord thy God, which I command thee this day to do them. So in other words, God said that to Israel, you would be a great, mighty nation. You would be blessed with all sorts of riches, wealth, and you'd be strong militarily, and your enemies would be afraid of you. And the caveat there was if you obey the Lord your God. And I think that's, in a sense, when Donald Trump is bringing up moral issues like the wall, abortion, and other things, he really is kind of, proclaiming biblical truths and giving our people a chance to choose greatness or choose misery.
Yep.
And if we want to celebrate killing babies and think that that's okay, then we're choosing
to destroy
misery.
Our country.
Yeah, we're choosing to destroy ourselves. I mean, this is a very biblical moment. You see moments like this in history where Joshua and others stood up and say, this day, tell me who you're going to choose. You're going to follow God, or are you going to follow the ways of the wicked? And that seems to be the same proclamation that Donald Trump had here today. You can choose greatness, or you can choose evil and have misery.
Yeah, and I think where we are in this time and period in time, where we're heading so far evil, that this is one of those speeches that is divine. Not because Donald Trump is so great, but because God is using Donald Trump to say, this is it. You know, this is your chance, America. What are you going to choose?
I agree. I think, yeah, God can use, if he can talk through the mouth of an ass
Exactly.
to give warnings to people,
Right.
he can talk through Donald Trump and give a warning to our nation, choose good or evil, and it's your choice. I agree. Some people would think your statement was like, oh my gosh, you're trying to say Donald Trump's a divine spokesman for God. It doesn't have to be, you know.
Right.
God will use whoever he wants to use to get
I
the
wonder
message.
what animal the leftist women would actually agree with. You know, speaking of the ass,
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
yeah,
They don't listen to men. They don't listen to anything else but each other.
yeah. And if you notice, they're never happy. Women that are like that,
No, they're
that hate
not.
men, they're never happy. They're never fulfilled. They've got to destroy something.
They want to be in a perpetual state of victimhood.
Yep. And a perpetual state of consuming or destroying those things that are around them that are good.
I mean, that's so unappealing.
Yeah, it's nasty. Nasty women.
Yeah,
as
that's
Trump
what.
said.
Well, Ashley Judd said that.
Yeah,
I'm
she
a
said that.
nasty woman.
Yeah. And Donald Trump said that about Hillary. She's a nasty woman.
Right.
It's true.
Yeah.
Not because she's a woman, but because
No.
she is a nasty woman.
They used to hang people for stealing horses, but now it's okay to kill people.
Kill babies.
Yeah, babies. Well, they're people,
Yeah.
so I
Yeah.
think string them up.
It's an interesting time, and that State of the Union was so much more and more powerful and more directed by God, and such a critical point in our history that I didn't even realize it would be.
Right.
I mean, I thought, yeah, he's going to say everything that I like, and I'll be like, yeah, good. But there was something more to it.
Well, I thought I'd turn it on and maybe watch a little bit.
Yeah.
Another boring speech by an idiot,
Yeah,
you know. But
saying a bunch of
I
stuff
couldn't
and-
even shut it off or turn the channel. I was glued to it.
Yeah, because, I mean, the words, they're just connect. They're
Yep.
so simple.
And even the people that he had invited, it was all
that was
American
perfect.
heroes and
Perfect.
American, just the greatness of what America is all about.
You know, I don't know who a speechwriter is or how much he has in the process, but whoever a speechwriter
Yeah.
is definitely
Nailed it.
nailed it. But it is, I think he has more of a hand in it than we think, because otherwise,
Yeah.
otherwise you got a masterful speechwriter, because this is the way Donald Trump talks.
That's the thing. Donald Trump has
casually.
to.
I didn't see him reading off a monitor, off a page, or
Well, but
anything.
he was.
Yeah, he read it basically word for word. They all do. I mean,
But he would deviate a little bit.
a little bit.
But yeah, you have to write it in the form of the speaker. Because if it wasn't in his style, it would be awkward and uncomfortable,
Yeah.
and it wouldn't flow, and it would.
Yeah. So I mean,
No, if that was Obama, it wouldn't have worked.
yeah.
No,
I mean,
Obama was a great speaker.
Yes.
He was very elegant and
Yeah.
very well spoken, and he
deceive.
was very persuasive
Yeah.
in his
But-
deception. Yeah.
But his deception, yeah, you could see that's like a deceptive, persuasive speaker. But this is just honest. It's true.
Down to
it's
earth.
easy to understand. You know, I don't want to say this because some people would accuse you of, like idolizing Donald Trump or
Right.
something. But the way he communicates is very similar to how God communicates with the Bible. He doesn't use
very
God doesn't,
direct.
Yeah, very direct. There's not a lot of extra verbiage and
Right.
words. It's very plain. It's very simple, so everyone can understand it. And I mean, people will talk about that with the Bible. It's like God says
That's a good point.
so much. He says so many things in so few words.
Yeah.
That's amazing. No, I mean, to be able to have that skill is very rare, and I think Donald Trump has that skill of communicating. So I'm not saying that Donald Trump's words are the Bible, but his style is very clear and direct, like the
Yeah.
Bible is.
There's no doubt that God is intervening in this whole situation.
Yeah, and that's another reason why I believe that, because I read the Bible, I see the style of God, and then I see God. I believe God's using this man, and the style of his communication is it seems very similar to me.
Did you listen to any of the commentary after the
Yes.
speech by people?
Yes. Stacey
It was
Abrams.
unbelievable.
Oh yeah, Stacey. Listening to her was just like listening to him,
Oh,
and then listening to her. It's like I can't even listen. I don't even know what you're talking
The-
about. You're hurting my brain.
I know.
It's
The
like
thing
this
that
just yeah.
there was a lot of things she said. I started taking notes on like all the things that were lies and stuff, and I'm like, I'm gonna have 2 pages. I won't be able. But 3 things that she said that just prove that their strategy is just to say lies, put it out there, and people hear it, and now that's the truth.
Yeah.
Whether it's the truth or not, it doesn't matter. Just say lies. But she said
As long as you
manufacturing, manufacturing we're losing manufacturing, she said. We are losing jobs and pay.
minimum pay.
Yeah,
She
the
wanted that to
wages
be-
are down. Wages are down.
She wanted them to be $15 an hour. Somebody
yeah, but
did.
she
I'm
said-
not
she
sure
said
if it was her,
wages-
but it was one of those.
Wages are down,
Speakers.
and that manufacturing, we're losing manufacturing left and right. Their business, manufacturers are going out of business, and that people are losing jobs left and right. And those are the 3 things that are actually really happening in our economy that are flourishing.
Right.
So where does she get off saying that?
And then she tries to paint herself as a Christian
Yeah.
while promoting abortion.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like, how do people believe? I know how they believe it. They're not biblical Christians.
Right.
And if you just go to church, you don't study the Bible, you're going to fall for those lies.
Was there anyone that agreed with his speech? Because I finally turned off these negative humans that were
Well,
just.
76%.
That's a
of,
lot.
the
No,
poll.
but I meant.
And they were CNN.
Yeah, and these
CNN
are like,
viewers.
this is like a left-wing news source. But they were doing it right then and there. Like you called in and gave your
Oh,
thing.
okay. Because
Yeah.
I only watched the idiots that were.
The pundits afterwards.
Yeah.
Yeah, even Ann Coulter, who's supposed to be a very hardcore conservative.
Well, and she's very pro-Trump.
Yeah, and she was railing on his speech.
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't hear that.
She's always kind of been suspect to me. She's
yeah, but she
always,
was a huge Trump supporter.
But
She was
I
the
always,
biggest Trump supporter.
I know, but I always think there was always something about her that I thought was self-serving. Like
What was she saying was bad?
she said it was a wimpy speech and
my
basically,
goodness.
and it was like that's probably one of the best speeches he's
That's
given.
that's
It's almost
sad.
like she wants him just to be angry and bitter
Yeah.
instead of trying to unite with truth.
That's probably what it is. She's huge on the border, and he probably wasn't aggressive enough,
Yeah.
and laying down. So, yeah, that's too bad.
But I think he never backed down on it.
No.
But he was communicating to people, trying to persuade them.
Yeah, and
by
he was
using-
trying to do it in a way that isn't going to put people in a defensive posture,
Yeah.
Just say the truth.
Yeah, and that's I like that.
Which he definitely has a tendency sometimes to, be a name caller and put people in a defensive posture because of the way he attacks them.
But you know what? Jesus did the same thing.
Yeah.
With the Pharisees.
Excellent.
But then other
Yeah.
times, Jesus would be more unifying.
Right,
you know?
when he was talking to the common person,
Yeah,
he was more of a unifying and not combative.
right.
But when Jesus was dealing with
Directly.
the hierarchy,
The money
his enemies,
changers.
he was very combative.
Absolutely.
And that's interesting that Donald Trump, he's got a totally different side to him when he's dealing with the fake news media
Yeah.
or people attacking him. He is very,
Yeah.
very, I shouldn't say ruthless.
He wasn't
but he's
any
very,
of that stuff in this speech. He
Yeah.
was very unifying, very loving, very reasonable,
Yeah,
fact-driven. It was just wonderful.
Jesus was so right on. I mean, he said, "Give to Caesar what is Caesar's, and give to God what is God's." In other words,
Yeah.
he was trying to,
Respect the government
Right.
to some degree.
but more or less also, hey, don't forget about the real thing, the real
Yeah.
purpose.
yeah. Whereas the leftists today, I mean, they despise any kind of order and, any kind of real government. They want, anarchy and or the government to totally control you. Yeah, it's just
I personally believe that this speech, because a lot of people watched it, if nothing else, because it's Trump, and it's like, what's he going to say?
yeah.
What's
Yeah.
going to happen? So I think a lot of people watched this, and I think there was a lot of people that were transformed by this.
I think there probably was.
And I think it's going to be a huge, not a bump just to his popularity, but in direction of our country.
I hope so. I hope so.
proclaim. I'm being the defender of the unborn.
And seeing how the left responds, they
Yeah.
all sit down and cross their hands with this look on their face, you know.
I mean, what?
Some men were doing that too. It wasn't just the white.
Well, yeah.
But they were the ones that stood out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What decent? Well, you had Chuck Schumer. He looked like the Joker over there.
Yeah.
The villain over there, looking at him the whole time. You know, and
Yeah.
it's just like that is just. Yeah, it is. It's like straight out of a movie or something with the Democrats.
It's almost unrealistic. It
is.
doesn't make sense.
Yeah, it's like I can't believe I'm watching people act like this.
Right.
And that's how I know that it's a spiritual war.
Yeah.
Because the devil is the only one that could make such a stand that seems so counter to our society and counter to what is good and what is right. But yet half of our country, I believe, right around half, is buying into it.
Yeah, they view evil as good and good
Yep.
as evil.
It's upside down, it's backwards.
It's absolutely insane. I can't understand.
But hopefully after this divine inspired speech, it's changing from half of our country to maybe only a quarter of our country that's
I know
following
it's
that.
hard because they're still bombarded with so much.
Yeah.
They'll go and they might have liked the speech or whatever, but then all of a sudden they'll turn on the TV and it's nonstop.
Yeah, when you got the
brainwashing.
majority of the media, the majority of the educational
The
system,
voters still have
the
to be
majority,
21, right?
the majority of
18
Hollywood.
now? That's scary. That's dangerous.
Well, it's
Yeah.
been 18 for a while.
But it used to not be.
I don't know.
I really think it should be at least 25,
Me too.
maybe even 30.
Even landowners only.
or only if you have to pay taxes to the
Yeah.
government.
Something to keep
The only thing I didn't like,
the
the
youth
only
from
thing
being
I
able to
wish
have
you
a
would have
revolution.
mentioned was poor old people like me about Social Security. Let's get that straightened out a little bit too. That's the only thing that didn't come up that I was waiting for to come up. I was hoping that would be part of his speech.
I know he talked a lot about that. He didn't want to touch that at all.
Right.
In his campaign speeches and I think in the first State of the Union.
But
Like I say-
ultimately, a strong economy is going to boost everything.
Yeah.
Well,
Because it'll bring in more tax revenue.
Yeah.
And, yeah.
And
for
they just gave
for
it.
whom the illegals, because they're making out. I was watching a show before I came, and they claim they're not even citizens. But what is that new? It's not not SSI now. It's called something else. IT. I don't know if you're familiar with the terminology, but they now, as long as they're illegal and work in this country, they can claim 9 or 10 dependents of nephews, nieces. They get like a $40,000 tax return, and they don't have anybody. They're not even in this country.
Yeah, in some states, if you're
They're
illegal,
in a different country, and they're using them as their dependents.
you get more benefits than a citizen.
It's amazing.
That's crazy.
That's the left.
Yeah. Yeah, another
I get
thing.
excited once in a while. Sorry about that.
Yeah.
No, it is hard not to get riled
Especially
up.
when I'm trying to live on Social Security.
Yeah, that too.
Right. Yeah, I hear
And,
you.
and I see.
But you just
Paid
got a
into it.
raise.
You
And I
paid
see
into
him-
it.
You just got a raise.
Yeah, well, about $25.
But
a
it was
month.
one of the highest raises in history.
Yeah,
Thank you, Donald Trump.
yeah.
So another subject that Donald Trump touched on was prison reform. He, in quotes here, he said, this legislation reformed sentencing laws that have wrongly and disproportionately harmed the African American community. The First Step Act gives nonviolent offenders the chance to re-enter society as productive, law-abiding citizens. Now states across the country are following our lead. America is a nation that believes in redemption. I thought that was interesting because a couple examples he used were one African or one black female. I like to just use black or instead of African American. One black female and one black male who were both in prison for drug crimes, and they were in prison for a long time.
Yeah.
But they both were reformed, and they both ran Bible studies,
Yeah, exactly.
stuff like that. And he commuted their sentences, which I think is a good thing. I mean,
Yeah.
the Bible does. I mean, the whole religion. Now, people could twist this and and say there's no death penalty and all that kind of stuff, but there is Christianity is founded on the forgiveness of sins.
Yeah, redemption.
Yeah, and him using that word is very interesting because it's promoting. It really does promote Christianity by using that word, I believe, anyways.
But years ago, the
At
laws
least
were
the spirit
different.
of Christianity.
The laws were different, and they were put in jail for something they wouldn't be put in jail for now, for drug laws. You know what I mean?
Well, ever since the war on drugs was declared, the sentences became ridiculous on certain drug crimes. I'm not
Yeah.
defending
changed now.
drug dealers, but I've seen situations where rapists and murderers have gotten equal or lesser.
I hate to bring up Jesse Ventura, but in a way, he was right.
Yeah, it just I agree with them.
Well,
on
it
this.
does sound like there were some laws that did disproportionately
Yeah.
affect the black community, and
Yeah.
and so him doing that is a very righteous thing because there are laws in the Bible that say there shall be one law for both the citizen of the land and the homeborn citizen as well as the stranger that's within thy gates.
And hopefully the African American community will see that and realize that Trump is their friend. I mean, he's very pro African American and
Didn't he also
and
bring
Mexican.
up that group 13? What's the group?
MS-13.
Yeah, he brought that up too about those guys.
Yeah,
And
because
they're-
they're coming across the border all the time and committing heinous crimes.
Well, check this out concerning the redemption statement that he made. It reminded
Where's
me of
that
this Matthew 18 verse 23. It reminded me of this parable that Jesus gave. He says, "Therefore is the kingdom of heaven like unto a certain king, which would take account of his servants. And when he had begun to reckon, one was brought unto him, which owed him 10,000 talents. But forasmuch as he had not to pay, his Lord commanded him to be sold, and his wife and his children and all that he had, and payment to be made. Therefore the servant fell down and worshipped him, saying, Lord, have patience with me, and I will pay thee all. The Lord of that servant was moved with compassion and loosed him." There we go. Compassion and loosed him, because this guy was sincerely repenting. "And forgave him the debt. But the same servant went out and found one of his fellow servants, which owed him 100 pence. And he laid hands on him and took him by the throat, saying, Pay me that thou owest. And his fellow servant fell down at his feet and besought him, saying, Have patience with me, and I will pay thee all. And he would not, but went and cast him into prison till he should pay the debt. So when his fellow servants saw what was done, they were very sorry and came and told their Lord all that was done. Then the Lord, and then he grabbed him and gave him a severe punishment. But it was interesting that, that spirit of compassion.
Right. It's biblical.
Yeah, that law that he helped get passed seems to me to line up biblically,
Absolutely.
and with the spirit of redemption. So I like that.
That's a great scripture to follow that up with.
Yeah. Because that law basically demanded that lady that was a first time drug offender.
22 years she was in.
Yeah, and she was in for life.
Yeah, but she
served like 22 years.
Yeah.
But
common sense tells you
But that law was demanding that she was going to pay every last dime of her sin.
Yeah.
Whereas Jesus,
And again, there's murderers that get out on parole.
yeah. And I do believe the death penalty should be for murder. That
Absolutely.
in that case, or rape, violent crimes like
Yes.
that should be punished by death, and then let God deal with them.
Absolutely.
But something like that, you could see somebody getting mixed up in that, trying to make money to
Desperate.
get food on the table or whatever.
You should get punished and you should do some time, but life or 22 years, that's...
Yeah, that's not in the...
And it was actually, to their credit, Kim Kardashian was the one that led that.
Yeah, she was, yeah. So I thought, that was a nice thing. When speaking of the border, he says this is a moral issue The lawless state of our southern border is a threat to the safety, security, and financial well-being of all America. We have a moral duty to create an immigration system that protects the lives and jobs of our citizens. He's absolutely right. I mean,
How do you disagree with that?
yeah. I mean,
You can't.
right.
But I guarantee if we watch the replay, everybody on the left didn't clap or stand, and everyone else did.
Yeah, they say that the wall is immoral. You know what I think the left is really afraid of deep down inside? The demons that are controlling them. They know that there's a city coming called Heavenly Jerusalem, and it has great walls. And it says that all the people that do the things that they do, fornication, drunkenness, all these different things, they won't enter in the gates since that they're outside the walls. They're not coming in.
Yeah.
So I could understand deep down inside walls scare them because it means they can't be in.
Subconsciously, they're just
Yeah.
afraid of walls.
Yeah, they because one day they're going to be outside and not able to come in the spiritual sense,
Right.
for heavenly Jerusalem. So, anyways, and let me see here. This includes our obligation to the millions of immigrants here living today who followed the rules and respected our laws. Legal immigrants enrich our nation and strengthen our society in countless ways. And of course, if they're legal, they have to learn about America, and they have to, love the country, assimilate into the country. At least they should. That's
Yeah.
how it should be. I don't know exactly the process that they go through now, but I think the legal process should be to make sure we only have people in here that love America and want to assimilate.
And it should be a certain amount of effort and work
Yeah,
to get in, because you got to want it
yeah.
and
Otherwise,
desire it. Our culture, our freedom,
New Jerusalem or Heavenly Jerusalem, that has a strict immigration policy, and
Absolutely.
you have to believe in Jesus Christ and strive to live according to the commandments of God. We have to assimilate into God's kingdom, or you're not getting in. Why should America be any different?
Well, years
Right.
ago, we were called the land of milk and honey, just like it was in the Israel
Yeah.
time.
Right? Yeah. This was referred to. America was referred to by many of our forefathers as the new promised land,
Right.
and it's very interesting, especially with
I believe
something
it.
that he's
There's
gonna,
no other country like ours.
Yeah, I totally agree. Notice here he says wealthy politicians and donors push for open borders while living their lives behind walls, gates, and guards.
Bingo.
Now this is so.
Yeah.
This is like this reminds me of the style that Jesus would use when exposing the Pharisees as hypocrites.
Yeah.
They tell you to do one thing.
I remember looking
Well,
at
they do
Pelosi's face when he said that.
Yeah,
She was like,
I know. Everything was just stinging her. She was so uncomfortable.
right.
That actually did make it a little more enjoyable having her right behind him.
Yeah, it did, yeah.
Because
yes.
when he was saying, just shouting the truth and seeing how she had to react, or she wouldn't clap, or, it was just like, we always had a constant reminder.
It was
Right there.
It was a little. It did give us a more of a contrast than
Yeah.
than slippery. What's his name? That was the house.
He was
speaker.
almost
yeah.
like a political minister. Seriously.
Yeah,
His
Yeah.
speech.
yeah. I think he was doing it. This is everything he said here lines up mainly with what I find as what God demands from a political leader.
Right.
He's caring for the people. He's standing up. He's standing up against the evildoers. He's exposing hypocrisy.
And he had no reason to be the president. He didn't need to be the president for any reason.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, he didn't. Need
But he
to-
was chosen somehow. And I think it was, like Damon said, divine.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. One of the real powerful things he said here. A lot of things were powerful, but here was another powerful thing.
Was Paul Ryan the one you were thinking of?
Paul Ryan, yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, Paul Ryan, yeah. Yeah. I don't have much to say good about him, but Here in the United States, we are alarmed by the new calls to adopt socialism in our country. And I didn't quote it, but he was talking about Venezuela and how socialism was led their country into adept misery, and it was a failure. And then, so these new calls, he's purposely pointing out two leaders in particular, that Cortez lady, is that her name? Last name
Cortez, yeah. She has three names, but
I'll just say Cortez. And then Bernie Sanders. And so this was a nice swipe at them, that we're alarmed by that. I mean, we should be. America was founded on liberty and independence and not government coercion, domination, and control. We are born free and we will stay free. It's just... Tonight, now check this out. Tonight, we renew our resolve that America will never be a socialist country.
What was interesting is a lot of the socialists didn't
No,
clap.
that was masculine.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
Pelosi did clap at that.
Oh, she did? I thought
She
she
did.
sat down at that.
I could be wrong, but I specifically remember watching it. We'll have to replay it when we're done here. But she clapped at it, but I think only because she had to and she was on camera. Because that would have been a true point when he says we're not going to have socialism. If she, it was like that was her moment to either.
I thought that, I don't know, maybe
We'll have to watch it again.
I thought that all the Democrats.
Yeah, they did, but she didn't.
She
because
didn't.
she was on
the
camera.
camera, yeah. And it was actually masterful. I don't know if he planned it like this or the speechwriter, but that did purposely drive a wedge in between even the Democrat Party.
Yeah.
It sowed division within them because they're having a struggle with the hard left versus the old timers that are there just for power, and they are afraid to go too hard left socialist because they don't fear socialism. They just fear not being elected.
Yeah, and some people would say the way the whole State of the Union goes down and people are clapping and up and down and the speech is constantly interrupted and stuff. And I've kind of felt that way, but after this one, I'm like, the way they do it, or the way it's developed is brilliant. Mm-hmm. It exposes things.
Yeah.
When you say we shouldn't kill babies, at post birth or near birth, and half of your government is sitting down not clapping, what does that tell you?
And there were a lot of biblical examples where the leaders stood up and spoke to the whole country.
Yeah, it
So I think it's a good
exposes
thing.
it exposes them.
Yeah.
It's like they're on camera. It's like you either have to cheer for this statement or not cheer for this statement. Where do you stand?
Yeah. I do. I think I agree with you. I think the State of the Union is an important speech.
This one sure was.
And even if it's a bad leader, it's important to hear them and to be able to see where they're lying too. I mean, I used to watch all of Obama's lies. It gave me a deeper insight into his.
He was the best liar.
His mischievousness and his strategery.
His speeches were elegant and wonderful, but what he did and how he led was complete opposite.
Yeah.
To me, he catered to the female with his speeches. It seemed to be that
Obama?
way. Yeah.
Okay.
He catered to that weaker. I'm sorry, did I say weaker? I mean that group.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't doubt it. I mean, that's what Satan tried first, is he get the women to pull the men.
Yeah, in some of Obama's State of the Unions, he would brag about how many millions of people are on food stamps.
Yeah.
Record
Brilliant.
level of people on food stamps.
Brilliant.
That was like yeah, that's great. That's how backwards they are. And
Yeah.
Trump was like, there's, I don't know how many millions are off of food stamps now.
Yeah,
That's
exactly.
something to applaud.
Exactly. Another thing here he says, we must choose whether we squander our great inheritance or whether we proudly declare that we are Americans. Mm-hmm. I thought that was so cool that he used that. He talked about the chamber and everything, that this House chamber, that we inherited this from our forefathers. And what are we going to do with it? It reminded me of a biblical speech. you know, from one of the patriarchs or one of, this is what we inherited from God. What are we going to do with this?
No, it was.
And I think that's important to remind us of our heritage, who we are, and what we stand for, and what do we want to choose. He says, we must keep America first. Actually, I think this is one of the last lines of the speech here. We must keep America first in our hearts. We must keep freedom alive in our souls. And we must always keep faith in America's destiny, that one nation under God must be the hope and promise and the light and the glory among all the nations of the world. I thought that was just beautiful. I know some Christians might look at this and say, we must keep America first in our hearts. And I think they misunderstand that and think that that's putting a temporal kingdom, an earthly kingdom in our hearts before the heavenly kingdom.
All right.
But what I believe in this context, I believe that's actually right in line with the second great commandment as found in Mark chapter 12, verse 29 through 31. Jesus said there are two great commandments: to love the Lord thy God with all your heart and all your soul, and to love your neighbor as yourself. And loving your neighbor, I think that's the definition of patriotism. Love of country is actually fulfilling that great commandment. You love your neighbor as yourself.
Like military service.
Yeah. Whereas the Democrats that hate our country, they're not loving their neighbor as yourself. They're despising everything. They're hating everything.
And why do you think most of the military are right-leaning, conservative, God-fearing men and women?
Yeah, exactly. But I thought it was interesting there. He says we must keep faith in America's destiny, to be a light and an example to the nations of the world, or to be high above. I mean, this was the promise. This promise that he's quoting here was the promise that was given to the ancient nation of Israel way back long ago. And many people believe that we are actually physical descendants of those tribes of Israel. Nevertheless, we have the blessings of Abraham to be all the blessings and the promises of Abraham as a Christian nation. Even if it was, even if those blessings were transferred spiritually, we still have them.
Right.
It's still our birthright.
But even Jesus said, "Go and preach the gospel to all nations."
Right.
So, he
Yeah, but it seems like America has been that, that nation that that has been the
that sends out missionaries.
Yeah.
Right.
The more
They don't send missionaries to America.
Yeah. Yeah, I know.
Not
Now
that I know of.
Yeah, now we're starting to probably need them, but
Yeah.
but yeah, I thought that was fascinating. There is a scripture that I wanted to go over real quick here as we close up. But Genesis chapter 12, verse 1, God speaking to Abraham says, "Now the Lord had said unto Abraham, Get thee out of thy country and from thy kindred and from thy father's house unto a land that I will show thee." Now we think of the pilgrims that came over here on the Mayflower. They left their homeland to come to a new land. Verse 2, "And I will make of thee a great nation, and I will bless thee." Now check that out, great nation. That's where a lot of Christians would say, I don't like that he talks about greatness. We're supposed to, that sounds prideful. But God, that was the first great promises to Abraham.
That was the goal.
Yeah, that was the goal. "I will make of thee a great nation, and I will bless thee, and I will make thy name great." There that is in it. Choose greatness, right? Like Donald Trump said in that speech. "And thou shalt be a blessing." That's exactly what he said. His statement there is exactly what we find in the Bible in Genesis chapter 12, verse 2. And he says, "And I will bless them that bless thee, and curse him that curseth thee, and in thee shall all the families of the earth be blessed." Same thing right there. Light and the glory among all the nations of the world. And then if I turn over to one other spot, 1 Peter chapter 2:9. Actually, I'll go to the Old Testament version of that. I think it's Deuteronomy chapter 7 is one of the places. Deuteronomy 7, when the Israelites went into the promised land. Deuteronomy 7, verse 6. Let me see. Yeah, here it is. For thou art an holy people unto the Lord thy God, for the Lord thy God hath chosen thee to be a special people unto himself above all people, or above all nations that are upon the face of the earth. And then he goes on and says that about. So it was just fascinating that he was, quoting basically from the Bible in the very last words of his speech there.
Yeah, it was a nice way to wrap it up.
Yeah. As America's destiny. He's basically saying, are we going to live out our destiny?
Manifest destiny.
Yeah. Are we going to stay one nation under God? Are we going to build a culture that values human life, starting with our babies? Are we going to build a wall to protect our citizens in our country? Are we going to grow our economy so that our families can be blessed? Everything. It was beautiful.
Oh, yeah.
Praise
It's like
God.
Men have to take control again of the family,
Right?
and it's not happening.
It's got to start in our family,
Yep.
in our communities, everywhere. We've lost masculinity everywhere, and we're being demonized and marginalized, and it's time to be bold.
Right.
We're at a crossroads in our nation, in the world for that matter. And I think this speech was the beginning of a choice
Right.
as a nation.
But the
Right.
scariest
Yeah.
part is, can it be changed? That's
I think it can for a while. Ultimately, we know
For a
that,
while,
that
I
Satan
know.
is going to get the advantage for a little bit before God ends it. But I think there's still room for us to.
improve.
God can do miraculous things. Just Donald Trump all of a sudden becoming our president,
Yeah,
not Hillary
exactly.
Clinton.
That was a miracle.
And having us go so much back to a greatness and stuff like that in such a short period of time was just. If we look back 3 years ago, I would have never thought that this was
No.
even possible. I would have thought the damage was too great.
Yep.
This will never change. We're just riding it out till the beast comes.
And to see Satan and all the people that unwittingly follow him lashing out in such an aggressive and
Yeah.
evil manner. It's just so clear what's going on.
Yeah, and then there are still some Christians, the never Trumpers. I'm like,
I know.
can you not see? Can you not see the hand of God?
Even Glenn Beck said that he thought the speech was basically divine and just
Really?
amazing. Yeah.
Wow, that's a lot
Yeah.
coming from
He was actually in the
someone who didn't
the
like him
auditorium.
at all. Yeah,
yeah, he was very anti-Trump but he's an honest man and I appreciate that.
yeah. And there's been never Trumpers, one after the other, that have finally come around.
Right. If you don't, then you're just stubborn and a fool.
Christian Overcomers is brought to you by the tithes and offerings of our listeners. If you would like to support our ministry, please go to ChristianOvercomers.com. God bless you, and thank you for your support.
Mine eyes have seen the glory of the coming of the Lord. He is trampling out the vintage where the grapes of wrath are stored. He has loosed the fateful lightning of his terrible sword. His truth is marching on.